rather than offline. So I anticipate that you will all be with me in some of my thoughts on the topic that has been assigned to me. Now we are discussing a couple of things here. One is, the first part is on the basics of research in the new paradigm. Then some issues in terms of the methodology that we adopt for research and the ethics in research. Am I right? These are the three things which we are supposed to correct. Is it clear to you? Is it clear to you?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So these
Yes,
are,
sir.
yeah, so these are the three things. I'm asking a question in between just to ensure that you are with me. Otherwise, if you fall asleep, I might not know. So that's why in between, I'll keep asking here and there certain things so that you can respond based on what we are actually discussing. So this is the theme. So I'll be putting it very simple. I'm not using any PowerPoint. I just want to capture your attention to a couple of things. First, that is, we'll try and see what according to you and me, or what according to us is basically research. And how is it relevant in the new context or the emerging context? And what do we actually mean by the emerging context? The emerging context is a context where technology is going to drive knowledge. So today, when we talk about literacy, it turns out to be digital literacy, it turns out to be the use of digital tools, so on and so forth. And what is this technology doing? Technology is essentially breaking the limitations of time and space. Earlier, we thought this would happen in banking, anytime, anywhere banking, or we thought it would happen in certain products when we have e-commerce portals. Any product is available anywhere at any time. Then we suddenly saw it moving into health services, telemedicine. Today, we are seeing it happen even in education. And that is exactly what is happening even now. I'm sitting somewhere else, you're sitting somewhere else, and we are all discussing on one theme. So one among the features of modern education is barriers of time and space will be broken down, and it is slowly getting broken down. I completed my education around 35 years back, and at that point of time, my concept, or for that matter, the concept of any other person, was I will be teaching in an institution, and that institution has a space and a time. I'll be teaching between 9:30 and 3:30. There will be classrooms and students will come and sit before me, and I'll be delivering the class, and that is it. I won't have students outside the classroom. So it's all confined to the space of a classroom and the time of a classroom. Today, you have what is known as MOOCs, what is known as blended learning. So I can have thousands of students who are outside my campus, and I can deliver and do my work at any time of the day. I can even do certain things at night. I can have my customers or I can have my students in any other part of the country or any other part of the world. So technology is impacting in such a big way. And the dimensions of knowledge is becoming very, very relevant. It is becoming relevant in terms of trying to see how this knowledge is going to find an application. This knowledge is going to create a practice, a product, a service. This knowledge is going to create a new culture, a new way of thinking, a new emotional dimension. So we are trying to look at knowledge as something which is going to be transformative. That is why we are saying research, the word translational research, translating your knowledge becomes important. And this we see in NEP, this we see in lots of other reforms which are coming up in terms of making a 4-year UG program with a research component, or project mode master's program. So we see this happening in a big way. Now, in this context, we are trying to look at what is research. Now, I'm not going by any technical, theoretical jargon. I'm going into very plain layman's perspective of what we try and understand by the usage or by the word research. Research, as all of you would agree, is exactly creating new knowledge. So in that case, then what are we actually creating? We are creating new knowledge. Now I'm starting from this conceptual part. We are creating new knowledge. We are not creating new data, or we are not creating data. We are also not creating information, but we are using data and information. So get that very clear initially. We will be using data, which is a raw material. We will be using information, which is a raw material, a transformed raw material. And from these two things, we will be creating knowledge. And in today's world, this is all the more relevant because tons and tons of data is available with us on a real-time basis, which was not there long back. Thanks to technology, thanks to www, and thanks to Google search and search engines and things like that, the database that you have. Tons and tons of data is available on any phenomenon that you want. I want data relating to forest wealth. You get all kinds of data. The flora, the fauna, the animals, the range, the weather, if I want to know details about exports, the value, the volume, the type, the nations, the continents, the place where it is exported, type of products, the packaging, the delivery, tons and tons of data. You want data on health, you'll get all kinds of demographic data. You want to have social data. You want data on economy, tons and tons of data available. But then the question is, what data is useful, what data is meaningful, and how I transform this data. Now, when I'm saying research in the first dimension is creating knowledge, I create this knowledge using data and information. I skillfully put it into a context and resolve an issue, and that becomes knowledge. So research is actually creating that knowledge. So suppose I want to create healthy living in an institution, a college, let us say. My starting point will obviously be data. I look at that institution, and that institution has got maybe 1,000 students. So I'll have 1,000 students' data with me. Their name, their gender, their age, their height, their weight, their blood group, their body mass index, their BP, their cholesterol levels, their sugar levels. So I have 1,000 figures of all these things. Now what I have generated can be called as, anybody? That can be called as, I have collected data from 1,000 students on their height, on their age, on their gender, on their blood group, on their weight, things like that. Now what I have with me is, anybody who can complete this for me? Now what I have with me is, yeah, it is data or information?
Information.
It is data. It is not information. It is unprocessed because I have with me 1,000 names, and I have with me 1,000 heights, the height of 1,000 students, the weight of 1,000 students. It's just data. Now with this data,
raw data.
Yeah, it is raw data. Absolutely correct. So I have with me raw data. Now look at this. With this raw data, I can look for anything. I wanted to know about the healthy living practices which I can give, or healthy well-being of the students. But I cannot arrive at any conclusion now because I have 1,000 height, 1,000 weight, 1,000 age, 1,000 blood group, 1,000 sugar levels, 1,000 BP values and all. Now what I do is I try to relate between height and weight. I take the average weight of boys and the average weight of girls. Average weight of boys and average, I take the, or let me say, I take the height of boys and the height of girls, and I take their average. And I also compare this height and weight with a standard which is prescribed by WHO. WHO says for this age, with this height, you must have this weight. So I compare it with that. The WHO says they have an index, or they have a chart showing height weight relationship based on age. So I take that for this 1,000 students and I compare it with the WHO figures. And now I understand that 30% of the students are overweight. 20% of the students are underweight for male. And the remaining 50% are having normal weight. For girls, it is like 40% are overweight, 10% are underweight, 50% are normally weighing girls. Now what I have created can be called as, yeah, completed. Earlier it was data, now it is processed into information. But even now there is no solution. I know that 40% of the students are having overweight or 10% are having underweight, but I don't know why. I don't know how, and I don't know what to do. So then what I'm doing, I'm relating this to maybe to their BP values. I'm relating this to their diet values. And I'm finding out the reasons why this overweight students have these eating habits, and which is having an association with this BP. And if they correct their BP through this exercises, they can move into this. Same thing with the underweighing students. What is the malnutrition issues and then things like that. And I'm coming up with a model on what will give a healthy living for them in terms of their diet and work style and work pattern and food habits and so on. This model that I'm giving, in order to avoid obesity among those who weigh excessive and avoid underweight and make them all keep them all at the right weight levels through a prescribed model, is what I ultimately create from my research. And that is called knowledge. I hope I have made myself clear. So knowledge comes only at that point of time. Now, unfortunately, in some of our academic research, we believe that my correlations, I'm saying there's a significant difference in the height of male and female. That is not knowledge. Or I'm saying that 40% of the students have become overweight and these are some of the reasons for overweight. That alone is not knowledge. I had an initial problem at the beginning. What was my issue? I wanted to know what will bring in healthy living and better healthy habits.
Teacher education.
My God, what is happening?
Okay, somebody unmuted.
Okay, so I'll continue. Shall I continue? It's okay.
Please continue, sir. Sorry for the inconvenience.
So what happens is, if I just say that there's a significant difference, or there is this many percentage of students have high BP, or there's a difference in male and female levels of sugar or cholesterol, all that is information. My initial problem was how to promote, or what are the issues which are obstructing healthy living. Then my ultimate finding is relating to that. These are the issues, and this is how it has to be redressed. That is knowledge. So this is very important. Understanding, we are creating knowledge. We are not creating data. We are not creating information. We are using data. We are using information. We are using our analytical tools. We are using our processing tools. And ultimately, we are inferring. And we are coming up with conclusive kind of evidences by initially striking at the problem. So we have data, we gather facts, we gather observations, we do our experiments, we process it, make it information. From the results of our analysis, we infer, we judge, and we come to a conclusion that this is because of this, or this is related to this, and this is how the problem has to be redressed. That is knowledge. If we talk about research about the COVID vaccine, we all knew that what happened when COVID came. A lot of people started dying, the virus was mutating, this was happening, that, and suddenly a lot of people started doing research. Problem is very clear. How to actually counteract the negative impact of this coronavirus? They worked and worked and worked, used tons and tons of data, tons and tons of sample, tons and tons of analysis, and finally a vaccine emerged. That is knowledge. That is knowledge, because this vaccine is the answer to the problem that you had. This is dimension 1 on research. Research is creating knowledge. It's not just creating data or not just creating information, because on my fingertips, I'll have a lot of data. And using the technology and the software, I can do a lot of analysis and give a lot of information. But I need to move into a phase of knowledge. It's not just, there's a difference between when I'm writing something as facts, that could be information. But now I'm talking about inferences, judgment, which comes out of a scientific process. That is research. Now the first dimension is over. That is, research is creating knowledge. Now, number 2, research is a journey from the known to the unknown. Research is always a journey from the known to the unknown. I don't know whether you agree or not. Let me give some examples. Suppose I say somebody invented something. James Watt invented the steam engine. Wright brothers invented the aeroplane. Okay, I'm giving some examples. So in these examples which I have now given, is there a journey from the known to the unknown? Because they created a product and that product was not there earlier. When the penicillin came, when the aeroplane came. So that product was not there at the beginning. So in that case, when they create a product, can you say that it is a journey from the known to the unknown? Or will you say that it is a journey from zero to the known? Which is more correct? There was no aeroplane, somebody created an aeroplane. There was no penicillin, somebody invented a penicillin. There was no steam engine, somebody invented steam engine. So out of nothing, something was created. And therefore, research is not a journey from the known to the unknown. It's a journey from zero to known. Oh, sorry, zero to finding out something which was still then unknown. Now, your response. Is what I'm saying right or wrong? Is it a journey from the known to the unknown? What is right? Can you say that research starts from zero? To be very simple. Or I'm just asking you a very simple question. You just put in the chat box your answer. Does research start from vacuum or zero? No.
Yes, sir.
Yes. How many of you feel? You can just quickly give your response. Does research start from a phase where there is nothing? Then in that case,
No, sir, it's wrong.
you cannot agree that it is a journey from known to the known, because you are saying
It is from something known.
the idea here.
We
Very
add
good.
up.
Very good.
We add up.
Yeah, most of the response is saying no, it is not a journey from zero to yeah. So disturbance. Can somebody... yeah. Am I audible now? I think there's a lot of disturbance in between. Somebody's speaking.
Yes, sir. I have one.
Yes, sir.
Okay, now I can continue, right?
Yes.
Okay. So what I'm trying to say here is, if you look at all inventions, all discoveries, true that they have all actually created something new. But this something new, they have journeyed into the unknown and created something, but it does not start from scratch. There was something prior to that. It could be some existing knowledge. It could be some existing observation. It could be some existing event, which gets linked up with the add-ons, and then you move into the unknown. So it's not from zero to the unknown. Say, for example, Wright brothers created the aeroplane. There was no aeroplane, but they understood something which was known, as a result of which they went into the aeroplane. Can anybody tell what was known? What was that which was known
The concept
to Wright brothers?
of flying.
The concept, very good. The concept of flying, or very simply, they observed that birds were flying. Understand? So that is very clearly said in their theory. They understood that there was a theory behind enabling birds to fly. Then they tried to emulate that theory into a machine. And that was how an aeroplane came into being. So there was something that is known. And from that, you look at many of the theories in different social sciences and disciplines which have emerged. It is all developments and add-ons to the theories. Let us say we talk about motivation. We talk about Abraham Maslow's need hierarchy. Then we look at McGregor said something different. But it was a modification or slightly add-on version to what McGregor said. Then Herzberg's two-factor theory. Then again, we come to what? Vroom's model. So many models came subsequently, but it was all add-ons or slight changes to what is known. Herzberg could not create a new theory unless he know what was existing before him. So it's a journey from the known to the unknown. All forms of research. So we said research is creating new knowledge. Number two, it's a journey from the known to the unknown. So if you want to find out something new, if you want to create something new, if you want to deliver something new, it does not come out of vacuum. It does come from something which is associated. There is certain things which is associated, which gets internalized, which might be in nature, which might be somewhere outside. We understand how that works, and from that something new comes. You look at all the product stages. Initially it was like this, subsequently it went like this, then they went. So even if you look at the aeroplane, what was a plane then and what is a plane now? Lots of changes have emerged over and over it. So it is a journey from the known to the unknown. And if you want to do a journey from the known to the unknown, you must start from the point, the first stage of your journey. If I want to travel from Trivandrum to Delhi, I must first know that I am in Trivandrum and I must know the way. If that is not known to me, my traveling becomes difficult. I don't know where I am. So that is very important when it comes to looking at what is known and what is. That means what I'm trying to say here is a lot of people come and ask, say, well, I want to do research in this, I want to do research in that. And immediately we ask them, what are the existing theories relating to this? Where did this concept evolve? Who was the first person to talk about it? And if you do not know that, how can you do something new? If at all you say that you're doing something new, there will always be a question that this is said by somebody else somewhere else, or this is not new. So what happens is there is always an issue where somebody will keep saying, well, there's nothing new in this. So we should know what is known, and only then from there I can develop something new. So this is the second concept of research. So when I want to do, that's why your literature review, looking into the current status of that knowledge, current status of the theory, so important in order to do that journey. So in that case, what are the basic requirements for doing research? Basic requirements of doing research is know what is existing. Know what is already existing, and have a powerful blending between existing theories and the observational hypothetical statements. You need to have a perfect blending between them. Say, for instance, if you look at the Wright brothers case, they tried to look at an existing theory. How are these birds flying? And they had a hypothetical condition that if the birds can fly like this, why can't we have a machine that is flying? So from the birds to the plane, from the birds to the machine that can fly, that was the journey. So for everything and anything, I gave you the example of COVID. Any product, any application, any service, they are actually journeying or facing through this particular plan, where they move swiftly from the known to the unknown. And depending upon the urgency of the burning issue that you have, we actually do this journey. That was what happened in the COVID case. The urgency was no vaccine was developed at such a fast pace as we had the COVID vaccine, because so many people, lakhs of people were dying across the country. And it became such an emergency, such an urgency, that we had to rapidly move with the vaccine. So known to the unknown. Now, when you move from this known to the unknown, a researcher is actually creating a blending between the theories which he has internalized and the observations that are there outside. So a good basic understanding of research is not just knowing what are the existing theories, but also internalizing the existing theories, understanding where these theories evolved, what are the schools of existing thoughts that are there, what are the theoretical models that actually exist, how did these models come up, under what conditions they became pertinent. I am internalizing all these things. And when I internalize this and look at something happening outside, I have with me a rational doubt. And that rational doubt is what we call a hypothesis. You look at the Wright brothers case, when they understood how birds are flying, when they tried to internalize the theories on how birds were flying, and they had a hypothetical condition, if this is happening, why can't we develop a machine that can fly? Hypothesis. And they went on to do a research on that. You look at all other theories. Say, for example, you have heard about a man who sat under a tree. He saw an apple falling to the ground. I'm referring to Newton. And it led to a new theory. Now, this was not the first man who sat under a tree. And this was not the first fruit that fell to the ground. But there's a big difference here. The difference is that this man, when he was sitting under a tree, he had internalized the existing theories relating to gravitational force. And even before the falling of the apple, he had with him a tentative hunch that there could be a force that attracts bodies to the earth. And it was at that time he observed something happening outside. And the theory inside had a blending with the observation outside. Today, if I am a researcher in sociology and I'm studying something in suicide theories, I internalize the theories of suicide. And suddenly I read from the newspaper, or when I go home, I find somebody has committed suicide. Observation. I try to relate my theories to the case of suicide which has happened outside. That is research. That is research. For those who are very closely viewing the stock market, looking at the stock market theories, suddenly they hear about the Adani issue and how the markets fall. The Adani issue and the market falling relating to that perhaps will be a falling apple for them. For somebody who's studying economics in terms of monetary policy, the rate change and its relative impact on inflation, which has come out in the economy, is a falling apple for them. For the Oxford, the COVID that happened, the coronavirus, was a falling apple. And they try to relate it with a vaccination. So research is moving on that line. Now, if this is research, what is this whole process trying to do? The whole process is actually trying to find out answers just to two questions. Whether it is a UG project or a PG project, or whether you're doing an MPhil or a PhD or a consultancy, if the approach is on research, then essentially you are answering only two questions. Question number one, what is that you wanted to find out? And question number two, how is that you found it out? What is that you wanted to find out is your research problem. And how is that you found it out is your research methodology. What is that you wanted to find out? I wanted to find out something which is associated with a problem. So I want to find out something which is associated with the problem. The Oxford wanted to find out something, when I'm talking about the coronavirus, they wanted to find out something in terms of an issue created by the coronavirus. The people in agriculture are trying to find out how to deal with a pest which is attacking vegetables or pulses or some other farm product. So we are trying to address a problem and trying to find out how to actually deal with that problem. And then how are you going to do it? I'm going to collect this kind of data. I'm going to do this kind of analysis. I'm going to do these procedures. I'm going to do these experimental methods. And I'm going to journey from here to there and then find out. I'm getting lots of results and I'm trying to do that. It is almost similar to what happens in your medical history. You know what happens in medicine? When a patient has a problem, suppose you have a problem, let us say your head is aching, what will you do? Now there's a problem now. Your head is aching. When you know that your head is aching, you will try to immediately solve the problem. So you might initially look at the problem as something which is mild. So I'm going to I decided to take rest, but head is still aching. I decided to take a tablet. Head is still aching. Now I believe that this problem cannot be solved by me. I need to take external intervention. So I go to a doctor. This doctor is a medical practitioner who's a researcher. For him, the subject matter of research is this patient. And the patient actually is going to the doctor and telling the doctor, my head is aching, a problem. Now it all starts from data. The doctor has a file before him, the name of the patient, the age of the patient, the height of the patient, some parameters. Then he's asking eliciting some data. When did your headache start? What part of your head is aching? Is it before food, after food? Were you exposed to sunlight? So some more data. Then he is relating this data with the theories that he has studied. That is how he's asking questions. He's asking only material or relevant questions in terms of the theories he has studied. That is where I said internalize theories with outside observation. Outside observation is the patient. So he's trying to relate it to these theories. If the headache is in this part of the head, and if it is after food, perhaps it is because of migraine. And if he is not getting the clues, he might ask for some test. He might ask for EEG, or he might ask for a blood test, or he might do a clinical test for your BP and things like that. So he's doing further examinations. He's doing his experiments. But that will again give some results, which is only information. He had data, he asked for some test, the test is giving some result, which is information. He's not sending you away, giving you the information. Say, for example, he's not telling you that, okay, your BP is 190. A test was done, the BP machine is taken over, and now you're saying your BP is 190. So the patient is asking, what does this mean? And the doctor is saying, BP is very high. Normal is 80, 120, yours is 190. So BP is high, now you can go. There is no knowledge here. There is only information. I want to know what is my problem, why I'm having more BP. What is my medication options that I have, and how I can regain my health. Only then there is knowledge. So what I'm trying to tell you is the doctor is doing all this. Now I'm asking you a question. The doctor is first trying to find out what is the problem with the patient. Is it a tumor, or is it a indigestion issue, or is it a migraine issue? He wants to know the problem. So part one of your research, what is that you are trying to find out? And the doctor is trying to find out why the patient's head is aching, because the patient has a problem. So what is that you wanted to find out? And number two is, here, after finding out that the headache is because of reason X, the next issue is he has to prescribe the medicine and do the treatment. Clear? Now my question to you is, which of the two things is more important? Both are important, but where will you give relatively more importance? Is it to identify why your head is aching? Or is it to give the medication for headache? Where will you give more importance? A, identifying the problem, why your head is aching, or B, giving the medication for the headache? If your answer is A, you can just enter in the chat box A. If it is B, you can give B. Where do you give importance? 1B has come, yeah. Some more responses, please. Okay, fine. So it's clear. What is more important here? Definitely both are important. That means if I don't identify the problem, that's an issue. If I identify the problem and give the wrong medicine, the patient might die. But invariably, you understand something. The most important thing is identifying why the head is aching. A. If you have identified that, then giving the medicine is, or doing the treatment is relatively easy. So identifying the problem is more important than giving the medication, because once I know the problem precisely, exactly, in a very focused format, then I will automatically know what kind of path or what are the ways and means through which I should do the treatment. So research is also like that. We need to identify what is the issue upon which your research gets focused. What is the core issue behind which you wanted to do the research? Or what exactly are you trying to find out? In academics, what happens is, by and large, in many a times, the issue why I'm doing research is not because there is a problem. It is because I want to get a PhD. The issue why I'm doing an MCOM project is just to get a degree. So at least at times, there is an issue of there being no problem at all. The issue is that you create a problem because you want a degree or you want to get something. You create a problem and you solve it. But once you have identified a genuine, existing, real-time, focused problem, then your methodology relating to that you can find out. From where I should get data, what type of data I should collect, what type of experiments I should do, how I should analyze the data, how I should interpret, all are important. But the second process becomes more strong. Now, when I have the problem with me, and when I have the theories associated with that with me, I will obviously have a hunch towards why perhaps this problem is coming. As I said, the doctor is trying to find out whether it is migraine when he's asking this question, because from the patient's history itself, there are some inclinations. But these inclinations will not be clear to me because I'm not a doctor. I don't know the theory. Somebody who knows the theory will understand that in terms of the context. And he will have a hunch that this is because of this. This is because of this virus. This is because of that behavior. This is because of this reason. This is because of this policy. This is because of that intervention, based upon the discipline in which you are. So that, that tentative hunch will always be there. And that is what we call a hypothesis. What is this hypothesis? It's a combination of two words. Hypothesis. Hypo means less than. Thesis means scientifically established, empirically tested fact. So put the two terms together. It means something which is below an established, scientifically established fact. That is why we are saying Newton had a hypothesis. Looking at the theory, internalizing the theory, Newton had a gut feeling that there could be a force that attracts bodies to the earth. Hypothesis. Looking at how the birds fly, these people, Wright brothers, they had a feeling that if the birds can fly like this, why can't we have a machine that can fly? So looking at the way this virus is mutating, these people decided to have a vaccine which will block the growth and development of the virus in human body, the vaccination. So hypothesis. When I look at the theories, internalize them well, only then you have a kind of hitch into what the issue could be. That is actually research. Identifying an issue which needs to be researched upon, journeying from the known to the unknown with a theoretical base on how this whole issue actually stood out to be an issue. That is what we are actually referring to when we are talking about research. So in this process of knowledge creation, of moving from the known to the unknown, we are consistently moving with a domain. So I am in a particular discipline. I'm trying to find out, how do I know whether there is a particular issue somewhere? It is based on impact. It is based on implications. And I go deeper into it and I try to identify what exactly are the factors which journey into this. Now, when you relate this to ethics, in research, do we actually, so we were trying to look at what research is. I said it is creating new knowledge, and I said that knowledge is different from data information and how it is distinct. Then I said it is moving from the known to the unknown, and I said how we cannot start from zero, but there are some theoretical backings to it, and from there how we move into the unknown and get something new. Then we were trying to look at problem versus hypothesis, how a problem or an issue is emerging in a context, and how the theories show that this could be because of this. Now we are moving into what are the ethical issues which get associated with this? What actually are the ethical components which we address over here? What are those ethical issues that we are actually talking about? Now let us try to now the same problem and the same issues which we discussed earlier. We are trying to bring in what we call ethics in research. Now, ethics is simply derived from the word ethos, which means values. Now, the values in research actually come when the research process is something which the researcher owns. The researcher is owning that. The researcher is saying, this problem I have identified. These theories I have internalized. This hypothesis I have formulated. And if you are saying that this is done by somebody else, somebody says that this is not yours, then you are unethical. Or you have not taken the associated theories and then you are saying that this happens in this form, you are unethical. You are not in a position to own what you are actually saying. Or when you have taken literature or borrowed some information on a particular context, and you are not acknowledging that this is an information given by somebody, then again you turn out to become unethical. So understanding the research process in terms of how the problem is identified and ascertaining the required data or required information which has to go into it, looking at the sources and developing it, that whole process is something which makes you ethical. So plagiarism is what it is just saying that this is not your words, it is done by somebody else. And you have just copied it out. So we have to become ethical on that count. We need to become ethical on the counts of or on the basis of what we actually call what can we refer to? The integration that is there all throughout the work. You identified a problem. Based on that problem, you have given a title. Based on the title and the problem, you have a set of objectives. Based on those objectives, you have a statement of the problem, and based on that, you have your hypothesis after your literature. So, and then so your problem gets associated with the objectives. Objectives gets associated with the literature. Literature gets linked with the hypothesis. Hypothesis is getting again linked with the methodology. Methodology again, your test and your findings is again giving rise to recommendations. This is forward linkage. And the reverse happens when you're talking about backward linkage. That means if you have a finding, if you have a recommendation, it should be based on a finding. If you have a finding, it should be based on that finding, should be actually based on a particular methodology which you have used, an analysis which you have used. This has got something to do with the existing literature, the way you have developed your hypothesis, and how you have set the objectives, and how do you come from how you emerge with your, what do you call it, your title. So both forward and backward linkage is actually emerging from an ethical process. It's not emerging from something which is just superfluous, but it can move into an unethical practice also. Say, for example, I just give some sweeping recommendations at the end, which generally happens. We just give a set of recommendations at the end. And these recommendations have got nothing to do with your finding. No integration. And again, if at all there's some integration, this has got nothing to do with the analysis. Or it has got nothing to do with the objectives. Or the whole issue is not related to the problem. So you are becoming unethical or losing value in what we are actually doing. So acknowledging what others have done, owning the process that you have actually followed, establishing that you are in a virgin area and then you are working on that line in order to strengthen your process is what we actually deal or what we actually discuss in terms of research ethics. Now, in this basic process of what research is, what are the research problems that are actually existing, we have to actually have with us a real research idea. Idea in the sense that what could be the end knowledge that we're trying to create? And what are the processes or what are the, what are the initiatives which must go into creating that end product, which is knowledge. That knowledge can be how to produce a product, how to make an application, how to render a service, whatever, or how to bring in cultural integration, how to enhance historical perspective. So in any discipline, this can happen. So this is what we are actually trying to talk about in terms of this. And that is, so what is more relevant? More relevant is training and addressing researchers and learners on how to identify a problem. How to identify a problem and how to work on a genuine problem which is live rather than cooking up problems. But unfortunately, much of interventions do not happen there. Much of the interventions are going on the methodology, like how to do your coursework, how to avoid unethical practices in research, how to be very excellent in terms of your preparations which go into the research process. So we are talking about things which might not always require that much of rigor. How to do the literature review, how to write the report, how to do SPSS. These are all methodological issues. Not that they are unimportant, but our ability to capture command over the same is not always at the same level. So this or these things that I've now talked about are actually referring to the basics in research, the basics in methodology, and the basics in ethics. When you are saying plagiarism, when we are saying that inability to move into a domain on your own and you take somebody's help and then you're trying to do that for them. Now, if this is a scenario, if this is research, and if this is the methodology, and if this is the ethics, let us try to understand what is the relevance of true knowledge. We were at one time living in an age of data. 40 years back, when there were hardly no computers or very little of, there was no internet and things like that, we were never getting even data that was required on a real time. We never knew what percentage of the people are actually below the poverty line. We never had an exact census of animals in the forest. We never knew many species and plant species. Now the digitizing and the technology actually has brought all these things into place. So at that point of time, data itself was an issue. And we used to believe that research is actually generating data. Then getting it processed in the form of theories, in the form of classifications, in the form of preliminary analysis is what happened in terms of information. So 90s, I still remember when I was a postgraduate student and all, early 90s, we used to talk about information age. We are in an information age. So what was more important is getting your data processed so that they become skillfully competent enough to be used in a situation. So terms used was management information system, information delivery systems. So all information was the key word. But now after 2020, we have started using the word knowledge commission. A researcher is a knowledge worker. So the information age is gone. And no longer people like you and me who are in the profession of teaching and research, we can subsist by being mere transmitters of information. Basically, for long, people like us, teachers, were basically transmitters of information. What is said in the books, we'll reproduce and give it to the students. What are the content in your material? The same content we are giving it to them. That is because what they actually needed, according to the then curriculum, was basically information. Today, it is not like that. Today, this has moved into what we are actually calling as knowledge. So the knowledge creation process is something which we are continuously engaged in. We want to know why something is happening, or how something is happening. And the answer to this why, and the how is data, processed information, and throwing open knowledge into that. You know, psychometric data today is so important in terms of digital technology. You have your smartphones with you. You will be paying money in an online mode. You will be buying products in an online mode. You will be visiting different organizations through websites. You will be giving different reviews in a digital form. You will be attending different meetings in a workplace or in a Zoom meeting like we're now doing. So what happens if somebody is integrating all my digital data, which comes through my smartphone, then very easily they know what are the types of expenses that I have, how much I spend on food, clothing, travel, health, leisure, which is the item on which I spend maximum time, what are my general meetings on, how do I make payments for my consumables which I've actually used. So these things get mapped. And from that mapping, those who need that information, they get to know that this is important for this group, this is not important for this group, this much percentage of the people are above the income group, this much people are below the income group, and so on. So our understanding of the problem and the hypothesis is the basic elements which will actually lead us into this knowledge era by the transformation mode that we are into. And that essentially is the what we call essentially is the base of what we talk in terms of outcome-based education. Research is actually very focused on outcome-based education. Say, for instance, when you are saying research, we are saying there is something which is known, which gets triggered through a theory. So that is what we call in outcome-based education cognitive domain. Then when it is internalized, you tend to have your perceptions, your emotions, your feelings, your chaos. That is what we call affective domain. And that is what happens in research when we tend to have a hypothesis. When I have not understood the theories, I don't have a hypothesis. When I have not internalized the theories, I don't have a hypothesis. I have no doubts. I have no rational judgments. But when I understand, I'm getting affected. So cognition to affective domain. Why this is happening? What are the reasons for the same? And once I get affected, I try to analyze and infer and judge. And through my analysis and through my inferences, I come to some conclusive evidence that this is because of this, and through this I can resolve this. That is knowledge, and that is what is given in outcome-based education as your psychomotor domain. You become empowered. You become empowered once you understand this. So the intangible outcome is the knowledge which you're actually creating. So this is the basis of, or these are some of the basic elements of research. And this is so very important for learners like us, because it is the beginning of a career where knowledge creation happens. And the knowledge creation happens, it does not happen just in your PhD degree alone. That will essentially be a beginning. But from there, looking at the new NBP, looking at the new emerging opportunities, you take up consultancy work, which is again knowledge creation. You're trying to resolve an issue in a context using information and processing it into knowledge. When we talk about publications, when we talk about patents, when we talk about technology transfer, when we talk about copyrights through creating books, dramas, poetries. So it depends upon where you are. If I am in literature, I will be moving into creation of intellectual property through writing content. It can be a drama, it can be a story, it can be a poetry, it can be a book. And that gets reflected through my copyright. If I'm in science, I'll be doing lab experiments and coming out with new findings for my theories, as a result of which I might get a patent, or I might do a technology transfer, which is actually creating knowledge. I might have more and more publications where I add on to the existing theories, I supplement the existing theories, or I contradict the existing theories, and I have got a different version or a varying version of what I wanted to establish. That is knowledge. So for existing in the higher education domain, I'm using this process of knowledge creation, not just for a degree, for my publication, for my patent, for my copyright, for my technology transfer. And these are the things which are going to empower us in future. Future empowerment is your ability to use the most material, the most exact information in the right context, at the right place, and in the right format in which it is wanted. Now, those are the basic ideas behind the good research that we do and the right perspective in which that particular research is done. That is what we need to understand. I have not talked about any of the definitions, but then there is research problem, there is methodology, there is hypothesis, there is also a fact of what you call the variables which come, independent and dependent variables which come into the process. Because in many of our research, you're trying to establish cause-effect relationship, whether what is the impact of rainfall on the production of an agriculture product, let us say paddy or wheat. Now, production of wheat is a dependent variable, rainfall is an independent variable. What is the impact of eating habits on good health? What is the impact of exercising on lifestyle disease? So there is a dependent variable. Your good health depends upon your eating habits, which is independent. Just like rainfall, production of paddy depends on rainfall. So also I'm talking about what is the impact of advertisement on sales. Sales is dependent, advertisement is independent. What is the impact of demand on price? So demand is dependent, price is independent. Price is high or low, you are changing your demand. Now this dependent independent variable is always affected by a third set of factors, which we call intervening variables. So when I'm saying that the production of paddy and rainfall has got this relationship, is it an absolute relationship or is it affected by certain intervening factors? Say, for example, I'm saying the production of wheat was this much when rainfall was this much. When rainfall went double, production of wheat went triple, 3 times increase. So I'm jumping into the conclusion that 100% increase in rainfall will give 200% increase in the production of wheat. This, I'm looking only at 2 variables mathematically. But when we look close to this, we'll find out that the production of paddy is not essentially affected by rainfall alone. It is also affected by factors like rainfall, factors like the soil, use of fertilizer, use of insecticides. So the part of the increase in the production of paddy could have been because of fertilizers, but you study relationship of rainfall. Such variables are called intervening variables. So these are issues which are actually talking about how your methods also need to be fine or need to be fine-tuned in accordance with the demanding conditions under which you are. So the purpose of understanding research in this basic format, because there is no technical jargon, just a minimum understanding or a very peripheral fundamental understanding on search for knowledge, distinct from search for information and data, and the journey from the known to the unknown, is to give you an empowering setting for your knowledge creation processes, to create interest in generating more knowledge. That is what we are trying to talk about when we actually look into good research. Now, this is what I have to actually share on the basics of research, and also certain things associated with the ethics, the plagiarism, the consequences of what happens if I don't do the right thing, if I'm using the theory used by others, if I'm not acknowledging that, I'm not truthful in my process. This is what I would like to share. So now I'm I have just given you a bird's eye view of the fundamentals of this process. And this requires a very good research ecosystem where we know about the data, where we know about the materiality of data, where we know about the issues surrounding us, where we have good skills in observation and comprehension, including writing, reading, listening, where we have good skills in transforming knowledge. So that ecosystem will emerge when our basic understanding of the milieu in which the problem exists is very sharp. So let us try to have that kind of an understanding. Let us try to build up that kind of a finiteness in what we do. And let us be ethical in terms of owning OWNING, owning the problem that I'm doing, owning the theories that I'm taking, acknowledging the piece of information that I take for others, and saying that whatever small piece of knowledge I have created is essentially what I have done. That is ethical. And if I'm saying this is done by somebody else, I'm acknowledging this is done by so and so. This is what I have just added to that. Those are the factors which turn out to be very important. So I thank the organizers from FAROOK College and the co-associates for having hosted this event. I don't know whether I've made sense or how much sense I could bring into this basic issue of research. I just wanted to give you some insights or some insightful ways through which some interest can be generated. So thanks to all of you. Wish you what you call all the very best in all your research pursuits. Now, anything which you would like to share or answer either now, or maybe if my ID can be shared, you have something to share in future also. I'm not saying that we are in a vast ocean of knowledge, but we are trying to put some insights into what can be added in the respective environment of higher education which we are. What we actually can do, we have to take that forward. So thank you so much. Now I'm open to questions which are clarifications, questions, suggestions, contradictions, implications of what we have now discussed so far. So let us have an open session on that count. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you so much.
Now I request our participants to raise their queries, if any, and please be very specific. Speak to the point so that others will also get the chance to get their queries cleared by sir. Please.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, anything anybody wants to add, because it might not always be a kind of a doubt. It can be more in the form of an addition or a strengthening that can be done to the process that we now discuss, because in the context in which we work, how we can create more interest in knowledge generation rather than just confining ourselves to the use of data and information, how we can actually journey further. So on that, any suggestions, any inputs which you have, you can add on to that also. Yeah, if you have nothing else, then yeah, it's all like, I don't know whether there are any other.
Doubt.
Yeah,
Sir,
Priya.
am I audible?
Yeah, you're audible. Thank you.
Now, while referring to research, your second point was the research is a journey from the known to the unknown.
Correct.
Definitely, when you analyze the difference between invention and discovery, the main idea related with invention is that it is the act of inventing something. Typically, sometimes it may be a process or a device.
Okay.
That has been something that has been invented is something that is newly invented.
Correct. Not existing so far. Discovery is finding something which is already pre-existing.
Already existed. So in the case of aeroplane or something, the product was not there at the beginning. Means it is an invention.
Yeah.
Like that. So do you, are we made to believe that the research is a discovery in that sense?
No. See, that's what. Very good. Thanks for asking that very pertinent and crucial. Can you introduce yourself? Could you introduce yourself?
Yes, sir. I am Lulu Escapil from FAROOK Training College.
Good. See, when I said invention, the product that is being created or the service that is being created or the outcome that is being created is entirely new. In discovery, it is pre-existing. But the difference between the two is, in discovery, somebody is unraveling a thing which was existing but not known. And in invention, you're creating something new. It was not at all there. But even when you're saying that this is not at all there, it does not mean that the man is starting from zero. That's what I mentioned, the zero or vacuum. There is an associated thought on it, or there is an associated theory on it, but there is no product. Product is new. Product is new. Even when you're talking about dealing with viruses, the first COVID vaccine was new. But there is a scientific theory on how to deal with viruses. And some of those existing theories are being used even in COVID vaccine. So the COVID vaccine is new, which is not the case in discovery. Discovery, what is being unraveled is already there, but somebody is finding it out for the first time. So I'm saying that I found out this is there in this place, but that is existing in the same form earlier also, but nobody knew it. In invention, you're creating something new, but when you're saying that you're creating something new, it is the product which becomes new. It is the outcome which is entirely new, your creation, but it is not from zero, because there is something which is relating to that, a theory or a conceptual kind of thing, which only through understanding of that you could have arrived at this. That's what we're trying to say. So we are not trying to say that it was already existing. Aeroplane was never existing, but this theory of how birds flying is a basic theory, the understanding of which is acting as the core or the basis or the foundation for the aeroplane. That's what I'm trying to put across. I hope I have made myself clear.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Any more questions? Yeah, if there are no other questions, then can we conclude in that case?
So there is one question.
Sure.
Azim Aisha Siddiqui want to ask, please tell us something on monographs. She want to know regarding the monographs.
In what sense? What is your question on monograph?
Is Azim Aisha Siddiqui is there? You can unmute yourself and please ask the question. Azim Aisha Siddiqui.
Only the word has been given. What do you want?
Only she has put the word, please tell us something on monographs.
Yeah. Good afternoon, sir. The session was very interesting. Thank you.
Thank you.
I read something about monographs in publishing. So I was, curious to know what monographs are and how is it.
No, it talks, you're talking about how the publication actually, how it is formed or how it is created with the ethical value in terms of acknowledging and referencing and writing in terms of content. I don't know whether that is what you're trying to bring about or. Was it-
No. I want to know something about monographs. What?
It is only a basic concept which talks about how you present. It's not actually directly related with the basics of research. So it's a different, altogether a different context into which you are trying to work.
Okay.
Sir,
Yeah.
can you tell me about something about ethnographic research? What is that process of research?
Pardon? The process of?
Ethnographic research. What is ethnographic research?
I didn't get you. Can you repeat it once again?
Ethnographic research. I have heard something about ethnographic.
Okay. Ethnicity is actually talking about a larger paradigm and a lower paradigm which gets actually related to it. How can I explain that? You perhaps it is something like a wider paradigm says something and a closer paradigm is talking about something. So are you within it or are you beyond it? Something like similar to what we call deductive, inductive kind of formations, which suppose I say boys are bad. There's a theory which I'm just hypothetically saying, I'm not, it's not what you call a real theory, but I'm just giving an example. Where I say boys are bad, and then I'm saying Ram is a boy. Then obviously you have to come to a conclusion that Ram is bad because boys are bad. So you're deducting it from it. So just like ethnicity is talking about when you go beyond it and when you come within it. In a larger paradigm, something happens. In a smaller paradigm, what will actually move into that? Those are only methodological issues. They're not problem-based issues. Like your methodology, how you go by it. Suppose I'm saying in a larger paradigm, there is a view which exists in this form. Then in a different paradigm, how do you actually relate?
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Is there somebody can read out the question in the chat box because it's not visible clearly. Any question in the chat box? Anything else to be added?
Ma'am, I hope we can conclude this session now. Now, sir's ID will be shared, and if you have any genuine queries or additions or contradictions with sir's points of views, you may use the ID to communicate.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. Ma'am, please conclude.
Yes. It has been such an honor to be a part of this wonderful event. On behalf of organization, I would like to extend my heartfelt gratitude to our esteemed speaker, Professor Gabriel Simon, sir, who is the head of Commerce Department, University of Kerala. Sir, I can say you are really a knowledge of ocean, and we want to get some drops from it. We want to assimilate some drops from you. I can be now the next one is I should have a round of applause and thanks to all the participants who made the event by keeping alive with the interaction and a memorable one. I would like to thank all of you present over here and making the time to be with us today and make this event a grand success. Thank you one and all.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And I also wish you the very best. If possible, maybe towards the end of one of these days, if time permits, I'll also join once again with some of the queries which you have, maybe with 10 minutes or 15 minutes. If possible, I'll try and see. So thank you so much and wish you all the best. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, sir.